The emergency room doors exploded open at 2:17 in the morning. I was 7 hours into my shift when I heard the screaming. Not the usual kind of screaming you hear in an ER. This was different. Controlled, aggressive, military. They wheeled him in on a stretcher, blood soaking through makeshift bandages on his abdomen and leg. 3 paramedics struggled to keep him restrained. His eyes were wild, scanning every corner of the room like he was still on a battlefield. Dr. Harrison rushed forward, but before he could even touch the patient, the man's hand shot out and grabbed his wrist with terrifying strength. "Don't touch me," he growled. His voice was rough, damaged, but the command in it was absolute. I stood frozen near the supply cabinet, watching this scene unfold. The man on that stretcher was clearly military. Special forces, if I had to guess. His build, the way he moved even while injured, the tactical watch still strapped to his bloody wrist. But it was his eyes that caught me. They weren't just afraid. They were calculating, searching. Dr. Harrison stepped back, hands raised. "Sir, you're bleeding out. We need to help you." "No." The word came out like a death sentence. Dr. Chen tried next. Then Dr. Rodriguez. Each time the same violent refusal, the same iron grip, the same single word. No. Security was called. The man's vitals were dropping. We were losing him, and he was choosing to let it happen. I watched the monitors, my nursing instincts screaming at me to do something, anything. His blood pressure was crashing. His lips were turning pale. This man had maybe 20 minutes before shock took him completely. That's when I saw it. As he shifted on the stretcher, fighting off another doctor, his torn shirt revealed something on his ribcage, a tattoo, partially hidden by blood and torn fabric, but I could make out the design, an eagle, a trident, an anchor, and something else. A number sequence that made my breath catch in my throat. My hands started shaking. That sequence. I knew that sequence. I pushed through the crowd of medical staff. My supervisor grabbed my arm. "Nurse Caldwell, step back. This is a code situation." But I didn't step back. I couldn't, because suddenly, everything my brother had told me 7 years ago, everything I thought I'd never need to know, came flooding back. I approached the stretcher slowly. The man's eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment, I saw something flicker there. Recognition? No, more like he was deciding whether I was a threat. I leaned in close enough that only he could hear me, and I whispered 6 words. 6 words my brother made me memorize when I was 22 years old, sitting in his apartment 3 days before he shipped out for the last time. Trident falls, but brothers rise always. The SEAL's entire body went rigid. His eyes, which had been filled with aggression and paranoia seconds before, suddenly filled with tears. His grip on the stretcher rail loosened. His breathing, which had been rapid and shallow, steadied just slightly. "You," he whispered back, his voice breaking. "How do you know that?" My own eyes were burning now. "Let me save you," I said quietly, "and then we'll talk." He stared at me for what felt like an eternity. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly, he nodded. The room erupted into controlled chaos as the medical team finally got access to their patient. But as they wheeled him toward the operating room, his hand reached out and caught mine for just a second. "Your brother," he rasped. "What was his name?" My throat tightened. "Lieutenant Marcus Caldwell. Team 7. The man's eyes closed. A single tear ran down his temple. "I know what happened to him," he whispered, "and that's why they're trying to kill me, too." My name is Grace Caldwell, and I've been a trauma nurse at Mercy General Hospital in San Diego, California for 9 years. I've seen things that would make most people quit medicine altogether. I've held the hands of dying teenagers. I've tried to explain to parents why their child didn't make it. I've worked 36-hour shifts during mass casualty events. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the night Lieutenant Commander Ryan Thornton was wheeled into my ER. I grew up in a military family. My father was Navy, my uncle was Navy, and my brother, Marcus, was the pride of our family when he made it into the SEALs at 24 years old. I was 19 then, just starting nursing school, and I worshipped him. He was everything I wanted to be: brave, strong, unshakable. 3 years later, he was dead, killed in action during a classified operation somewhere in the Middle East. That's all we were told. Classified operation, hostile engagement, honorable death. The words meant nothing to me. They were just sounds that replaced the brother I loved. The night before he left for that final deployment, Marcus sat me down in his small apartment near Coronado. He was different that night, quiet, almost anxious, which wasn't like him at all. "Gracie," he said, using the nickname only he was allowed to use, "I need you to remember something. Just in case." I laughed it off. "Just in case what?" "You're the best of the best, Marcus. You're coming home." But he didn't laugh. He pulled out a piece of paper and wrote down a phrase. "Trident falls, but brothers rise always." He made me repeat it 20 times, made me promise I'd never forget it. Made me swear I'd never say it to anyone unless it was literally life or death. This is our unit's emergency code, he explained. If someone from Team 7 ever approaches you and they're in trouble, real trouble, this phrase lets them know they can trust you. It means your family, protected family. I thought he was being paranoid, overly dramatic. I folded the paper and stuck it in my wallet, never expecting to need it. 3 weeks later, 2 officers in dress uniforms knocked on my parents' door. For 7 years, I carried that phrase like a scar, a reminder of my brother and the secrets he died protecting. I never imagined I'd actually use it. I never imagined I'd be standing in an emergency room watching a SEAL bleed out while refusing help, and suddenly understanding exactly why Marcus made me memorize those words. Because sometimes, the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from. If this story has already gripped you, subscribe to the channel now, because what comes next is going to surprise you even more. The secrets buried in military operations, the lies told to families, the codes that separate the living from the dead. This is just the beginning. Ryan Thornton survived the emergency surgery, barely. The surgical team removed 3 bullet fragments from his abdomen and repaired a severed artery in his left leg. According to Dr. Harrison, he'd lost almost 40% of his blood volume by the time we got him stabilized. Another 10 minutes and he would have been gone, but he didn't die. And when he woke up 6 hours later in the ICU, the first thing he did was ask for me. I was ending my shift when the ICU nurse paged me. He won't talk to anyone else, she said, sounding frustrated. He keeps saying he needs Nurse Caldwell. Security won't clear you to go in alone, though. Not after what happened in the ER. I understood their caution. This man had violently refused treatment from multiple doctors. He'd been brought in under mysterious circumstances with gunshot wounds. No ID. No emergency contacts. The police were already asking questions, and hospital administration was treating this like a potential security threat, but I had to see him. I had to know what he meant when he said he knew what happened to Marcus. I entered his room with a security guard stationed just outside. Ryan was awake, staring at the ceiling, his wrists loosely restrained to the bed rails as a precaution. When he heard me enter, his head turned slowly. His eyes, which had been so wild and paranoid hours earlier, were now clear but filled with something else. Guilt. Grace Caldwell, he said quietly. It wasn't a question. You look like him. Same eyes. I pulled a chair close to his bed but kept my distance. How did you know Marcus? I was his CO, his commanding officer. Ryan's voice was hoarse, damaged. Team 7, 2nd Platoon. Your brother was one of the best operators I ever served with. My chest tightened. Then you were there. When he died, you were there. Ryan closed his eyes. Yes. Tell me what happened. The words came out harder than I intended. 7 years of questions, 7 years of classified reports and blocked FOIA requests, and watching my parents deteriorate under the weight of not knowing. Tell me the truth. The truth will put you in danger, Ryan said, opening his eyes to look directly at me. The same danger I'm in now. That's why I couldn't let those doctors treat me. I didn't know who to trust. Military hospitals, civilian hospitals connected to bases, even certain ER staff have been compromised. Compromised by who? By the people who wanted that mission to fail. Ryan shifted in the bed, wincing from the surgical pain. Your brother didn't die in a hostile engagement, Grace. He died because someone in our chain of command fed our position to the enemy. We were set up, ambushed, and Marcus figured it out right before it happened. The room started spinning. I gripped the edge of the bed to steady myself. What are you saying? That he was murdered? I'm saying that 4 men died that night because someone wanted to bury what we'd discovered. Your brother was trying to document evidence when the ambush started. He gave me a flash drive and told me to run, to get it to someone who could expose what was happening. I was the only one who made it out alive. My hands were shaking now. Where is it? The flash drive? Did you expose them? Ryan's jaw tightened. I tried. I gave it to my superior officer when I returned stateside. He promised me he'd handle it through proper channels. 2 weeks later, that officer died in a training accident. The flash drive disappeared, and I was reassigned to a desk job with a very clear warning to keep my mouth shut. But you didn't. No, I didn't. Ryan's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. I spent 7 years gathering evidence. Names, dates, financial transactions, proof that high-ranking officials were running illegal arms deals through classified operations, proof that they were willing to kill their own men to protect those deals. And 3 days ago, I finally had enough to go public. What happened 3 days ago? I contacted a journalist, a real one, with credentials and protection. We were supposed to meet, but someone found out. They sent a team after me. Not foreign enemies, not terrorists, Americans, wearing civilian clothes but moving like special operations. I barely escaped, got shot twice in the process, and I knew I couldn't go to a military hospital, couldn't trust anyone in the network. So I came here, to a civilian ER far enough from base that maybe, just maybe, I'd find someone who wasn't compromised. Thank you for staying with me this far. It shows that you feel the same thing I felt when I lived through all of this. So subscribe now and turn on notifications, because what comes next changes everything. I sat in that ICU room for another 20 minutes, listening to Ryan describe things that sounded like conspiracy theories, but felt terrifyingly real. He talked about shell companies funneling weapons to proxy groups, about classified operations that were actually covers for illegal transactions, about officers who asked too many questions ending up dead in training accidents or sudden suicides. And he talked about Marcus, about how my brother had been the team's communications specialist, about how Marcus had intercepted an encrypted message that wasn't meant for their unit, about how he'd started piecing together evidence that their deployment was never about the mission objectives they'd been given. Your brother was brilliant, Ryan said, his voice thick with emotion. He could have just followed orders, completed the op, come home, but he couldn't let it go. He knew something was wrong. He knew that if we completed that mission, we'd be facilitating something illegal, something that would get civilians killed. So, they killed him first, I whispered. They killed all of us, or tried to. I only survived because Marcus pushed me out of the kill zone seconds before the ambush started. He saved my life, Grace, and then he died while I ran. I could see the guilt eating him alive. 7 years of survivor's guilt, compounded by the knowledge that he was carrying secrets that got his teammates killed. Why now? I asked. Why go public after 7 years? Because they're expanding operations, using the same model that got your brother killed. More teams, more illegal deals, more bodies. I couldn't live with myself anymore. I had to try. A soft knock on the door interrupted us. The security guard stuck his head in. Nurse Caldwell, there are 2 men here asking about the patient. They say they're with Naval Criminal Investigative Service. Ryan's entire body went rigid. What do they look like? The guard seemed confused by the question. Official, suits, badges. They want to question him about the incident. Tell them he's sedated and can't have visitors yet, I said quickly, my heart pounding. Doctor's orders. The guard hesitated, then nodded and closed the door. Ryan was already trying to sit up, grimacing through the pain. You need to listen to me very carefully. Those men are not here to investigate. They're here to finish what they started. If they get in this room, I'm dead. And if they think you know anything, you're dead too. Then what do? You get me out of here, tonight, before they find a way to override hospital security. I stared at him like he'd lost his mind. You just had emergency surgery. You can't even walk. How am I supposed to get you out of a hospital? I don't know, but you're Marcus Caldwell's sister, which means you're smart, resourceful, and you don't give up. Figure it out, because if you don't, everything your brother died protecting dies with me. Now I want to hear from you. Where are you watching this story from? Drop a comment below. It's incredible to see people from so many places following stories like this. I've never considered myself a rule breaker. I'm a nurse. I follow protocols. I respect chain of command. I document everything properly. I've built my entire career on being reliable, trustworthy, professional. But standing in that ICU room, watching Ryan Thornton struggle to breathe through his panic, knowing that 2 men with badges were somewhere in this hospital looking for him, I made a decision that went against every professional instinct I had. I was going to help him escape. First, I needed to assess whether he was even physically capable of moving. I checked his vitals quietly. Blood pressure was low but stable. Heart rate elevated but consistent. The surgical wounds were properly closed and draining normally. He was on IV antibiotics and pain medication, but nothing that would completely incapacitate him. Can you stand? I asked quietly. Ryan nodded. I've operated on worse injuries. I can move if I have to. You'll need clothes. Your gear was taken as evidence. I have a go bag, hidden 3 blocks from here, behind a dumpster near the 24/7 convenience store on Harbor Drive. Everything I need is in there. Of course he had a go bag. Of course he'd planned for this scenario. I thought fast. My shift ends in 45 minutes. I'll change out of my scrubs, grab my car from the staff lot, and pull around to the service entrance near the loading dock. It's less monitored than the main entrances. At 0300 hours, I'll create a distraction on the 2nd floor. That should pull most of the security attention away from ICU for about 10 minutes. What kind of distraction? I haven't figured that out yet, but I'll make it work. I moved toward the door, then stopped. Ryan, I need to know, is everything you told me true? Because if I do this, I'm risking my career, possibly my freedom, definitely my safety. I need to know my brother didn't die for nothing. Ryan met my eyes. Your brother died trying to stop something evil, something that's still happening. I swear to you on his memory, Grace, everything I told you is true. I nodded once. 0300 hours. Be ready. The next 45 minutes were the longest of my life. I finished my shift paperwork, handed off my remaining patients, and tried to act completely normal while my mind raced through escape plans. I avoided the area where the NCIS agents were questioning staff. I kept my head down, my expression neutral, my movements routine. In the staff locker room, I changed into street clothes and grabbed my car keys. My hands were shaking. I was really doing this. I was really about to help a patient escape from a hospital while federal agents were looking for him. Before leaving, I sent a text message to my supervisor. Family emergency. Need to take personal leave starting tomorrow. We'll call in the morning with details. It would buy me time before anyone noticed I was involved. I walked to my car, a 7-year-old Honda Civic that Marcus had helped me buy right before his last deployment. As I slid into the driver's seat, I saw something tucked under the windshield wiper, a business card. I got out and grabbed it. Heavy cardstock, professional printing, no name, just a phone number, and a message handwritten on the back. We need to talk about your patient. Call before you do something you'll regret. My blood ran cold. They knew. Somehow, they already knew I'd talked to Ryan. I looked around the parking lot, shadows between cars. A dark sedan parked 3 rows away with someone sitting in the driver's seat. Cameras on every light pole. I was already being watched. I got back in my car, started the engine, and pulled out of the parking lot normally. The dark sedan didn't follow, which somehow made it worse. They didn't need to follow. They knew where I lived. They knew my routine. They probably knew I was planning something, but I couldn't back out now. Ryan Thornton was the last person alive who knew the truth about what happened to Marcus. If I abandoned him, my brother's death would be meaningless. The men who killed him would continue operating with impunity. And eventually, more soldiers like Marcus would die protecting secrets that benefited no one but corrupt officials. I drove to the 24/7 on Harbor Drive. At 2:53 in the morning, there were only a few customers inside. I parked and walked around back, trying to look casual. Behind the dumpster, exactly where Ryan said it would be, was a black waterproof bag wedged between the wall and the waste container. I grabbed it and returned to my car. Inside were clothes, cash, a burner phone, a fake ID, and something else. A small external hard drive with a piece of tape on it, written in permanent marker, Marcus Caldwell, backup, and my brother's name, in Ryan's handwriting. This was the evidence. This was what Marcus died protecting. I sat there in my car, holding that hard drive, and for the first time since Marcus died, I felt like I understood what he'd been fighting for. Not glory, not country, not even duty. He'd been fighting against a system that had become corrupted from within, against people who wore uniforms and pledged oaths, but served only themselves. At 2:58, I pulled around to the hospital's service entrance. At exactly 0300 hours, I sent a single text to the hospital's general emergency line from a burner phone I'd bought weeks ago for a completely different reason. Fire alarm triggered, 2nd floor, east wing. Within seconds, alarms blared throughout the building. Security and staff rushed toward the 2nd floor. Confusion rippled through the hospital. I had maybe 8 minutes. I ran. I found Ryan already sitting on the edge of his hospital bed, IV lines removed, monitoring equipment disconnected. He'd stripped off the hospital gown and was wearing just his surgical bandages and boxer shorts. His face was pale with pain, but his movements were controlled and purposeful. "Took you long enough," he grunted, taking the clothes I handed him from the go bag. "Yeah, well, I'm new at the whole patient smuggling thing." I helped him into pants and a shirt, trying not to jostle his surgical wounds. Every movement made him wince, but he didn't cry out. Military training. Pain tolerance most civilians couldn't comprehend. We could hear footsteps in the hallway, voices shouting about the fire alarm, security protocols being activated. We had maybe 4 minutes left before someone came to check on ICU patients. Ryan was dressed, barely standing, but dressed. I slung his arm over my shoulder and took most of his weight. We moved slowly, painfully, toward the service stairs. The elevator would have been easier, but also more monitored. Stairs were our only option. Going down 3 flights of stairs with a man who just had emergency surgery was nightmare fuel. Every step, Ryan's breathing became more labored. Sweat poured down his face. I could feel his body trembling with the effort. "Almost there," I whispered. 2 more flights. "I know my exit points," he managed through gritted teeth. "Used to train for this, extractions under fire." "Yeah, well, you usually aren't the one with holes in your abdomen." "Fair point." We reached the ground floor. Through the service entrance door, I could see my car idling where I'd left it. Empty hallway behind us, fire alarm still blaring. We were going to make it. That's when I heard the voice. "Nurse Caldwell, stop right there." I turned. 2 men in suits stood at the far end of the hallway. The same men from earlier. The NCIS agents, except now I could see their hands resting on weapons holstered under their jackets. "Step away from the patient," the taller one said. "This is a matter of national security." Ryan's grip tightened on my shoulder. "Keep moving," he whispered. "They won't shoot you in a hospital. Too many witnesses." "You sure about that?" "No, but it's our only play." I took another step toward the exit. The agents moved forward, hands now actively on their weapons. I said stop. "We will use force if necessary." "Then do it," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. "Shoot an unarmed nurse helping an injured patient. I'm sure that'll look great on the security footage." The shorter agent spoke for the first time. "You have no idea what you're involved in. That man is a traitor. He's stolen classified information, and he's a threat to national security operations. Funny, I shot back. He says you're the traitors. Says you're trying to silence him before he can expose corruption in the command structure. He's paranoid, suffering from PTSD. Everything he's told you is a delusion. Ryan laughed bitterly. Then why are you so desperate to stop me from talking? Why did you send a kill team 3 days ago? If I'm just a crazy PTSD case, why not let me embarrass myself publicly? The taller agent's expression hardened. Last warning, step away from him now, or you become complicit in espionage. I looked at Ryan, then at the agents, then at the exit door just 15 feet away, and I made my choice. I half-carried, half-dragged Ryan through the exit door. Behind us, I heard shouting, footsteps, but they were right. They couldn't shoot in a hospital. Too many cameras, too many witnesses. They had to maintain deniability. We crashed through the exit into the warm San Diego night. My car was right there. I practically threw Ryan into the passenger seat, ran around to the driver's side, and floored it out of the parking lot. In my rearview mirror, I saw the 2 agents emerge from the hospital, weapons drawn, radios to their mouths. Within seconds, they'd have every law enforcement agency in the city looking for my car. Where do we go? I asked, hands shaking on the steering wheel. Drive north, Highway 5. There's a safe house in Oceanside, 40 minutes from here. They'll have roadblocks up in 20. Then drive faster. I merged onto the highway, pushing my Honda to speeds it wasn't designed for. Behind us, no flashing lights yet, but they were coming. I could feel it. Ryan, I said quietly, what did my brother find? What's on that hard drive? He was quiet for a moment, pressing a hand against his surgical wounds. When he spoke, his voice was heavy. Evidence of an arms trafficking network operating through classified military operations, selling weapons to both sides of conflicts, prolonging wars for profit. Your brother documented everything. Names, bank accounts, shipping manifests, communications, enough to bring down at least 8 high-ranking officers and 3 defense contractors. And they killed him for it. They killed him to protect billions of dollars in illegal profits, to protect careers and reputations, to protect a system that benefits them at the cost of the soldiers they're supposed to lead. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. We're going to destroy them. That's the plan, if we live long enough. Headlights appeared behind us. A black SUV, closing fast. Ryan, I see them. Keep driving. Don't stop for anything. The SUV accelerated. So did I. We were racing through the night at 90 miles per hour, weaving between sparse late-night traffic, and I had no idea if I was running from federal agents or assassins or both. All I knew was that my brother had died protecting secrets that could save lives, and I wasn't going to let his sacrifice be for nothing, not even if it killed me. The black SUV stayed on us for 15 miles. They didn't try to run us off the road, didn't try to shoot, just maintained pressure, staying 3 car lengths back, a constant, threatening presence. Why aren't they stopping us? I asked, knuckles white on the steering wheel. Ryan was monitoring them in the side mirror. Because we're on a public highway with cameras everywhere, they're waiting for us to reach a more isolated area, somewhere they can stage an accident. That's comforting. Take the next exit. Surface streets. More witnesses. I swerved across 2 lanes and took the exit at the last possible second. The SUV tried to follow, but got blocked by a semi-truck. We gained maybe 30 seconds. I navigated through sleeping neighborhoods, running stop signs, taking random turns. My heart was hammering so hard I could hear it over the engine. This wasn't a movie. This was real. I was really being chased by people who wanted to kill the man bleeding in my passenger seat. After 20 minutes of evasive driving, I finally lost them, or they let me lose them. I wasn't sure which was worse. Where now? I asked. The safe house is compromised if they followed us this long. They'll have it staked out. Ryan was getting paler. His breathing was labored. We need somewhere off the grid, somewhere they wouldn't think to look. I thought fast. I have a place. My parents' old cabin near Julian. They haven't used it in years. It's remote. No digital trail connecting it to me anymore. We could hide there while we figure out our next move. How far? Hour and a half. Do it. I headed east into the mountains. As we climbed in elevation, leaving the city lights behind, Ryan started talking. Your brother saved my life 3 times before the night he died, he said quietly. First time was in training, I nearly drowned. Marcus pulled me up. Second time was in Iraq. An IED detonated, and Marcus tackled me out of the blast radius. Third time was Syria. A sniper had me pinned down. Marcus flanked the position and took the shooter out. I listened, tears blurring my vision. He was the best man I ever served with, the kind of soldier who actually believed in his oath. When he figured out what our command was doing, he didn't hesitate. He knew it would get him killed, and he did it anyway because it was right. How did he find out? I asked. We were supposed to escort a convoy carrying humanitarian supplies, but Marcus intercepted communications suggesting it was transporting weapons to a warlord our own government had designated as a terrorist. He hacked the shipping manifests and found proof. Illegal arms deals, funneling millions through shell companies. The weapons prolonged prolonged a conflict that kept defense contracts flowing. Our deployment was a cover for arms trafficking. The road got darker as we climbed. What did he do when he found out? He showed me everything. We agreed we had to report it, but couldn't trust our immediate chain of command. Marcus started documenting everything, building an airtight case to take to an inspector general contact back stateside. But someone found out. Yes, 3 days before we were scheduled to return, we got new orders. A high-value target in a nearby village. Marcus didn't trust the intel, said it was too convenient. It was an ambush. They knew exactly where we'd be. It was execution. Marcus realized it seconds before they opened fire. He pushed me toward cover and ran toward the enemy position, drawing their fire. He was shot 7 times. I watched him fall, watched him die, and I ran. You survived, I said firmly. That's what he wanted. He saved you so you could finish what he started. I tried. For 7 years they shut me down, transferred me, threatened me, made evidence disappear. 3 other people who tried to help me ended up dead. I started to think I should just let it go. What changed? I found out they're planning something big. A massive operation in Eastern Europe. Same model. Weapons trafficking disguised as military aid, but on a huge scale. Billions of dollars. Thousands of weapons. It will destabilize the entire region. That's why I went to the journalist, and that's why they sent a kill team. I'm not just threatening their past crimes. I'm threatening their future profits. We drove in silence. We were close to the cabin. Ryan, I said quietly, if we expose them, will it bring Marcus back? No, he said honestly. Nothing will bring him back. Will it give meaning to his death? Marcus gave meaning to his own death when he chose to stand up. But yes, exposing these people will honor what he died trying to do. It will save lives. It will show that corruption doesn't win. I pulled up to the dark, isolated cabin. Then, let's finish what my brother started. The cabin was dusty, with no electricity, but we had heat and a stove. I helped Ryan onto the couch and found supplies. I checked his surgical wounds, cleaned them, and reapplied bandages. You need rest, I said. We need to contact the journalist. Get this story out. We will. Right now, you're going into shock. He didn't argue, and was asleep within minutes. I sat on the porch, watching the sunrise. My phone was off. We were ghosts for now, but I knew they had resources. We had maybe 48 hours before this refuge became a trap. I thought about my simple, safe life before tonight. Now I was a fugitive, harboring a wanted man. I'd never felt more purposeful. I went back inside to find Ryan looking at the external hard drive he'd pulled from his bag. This is it, he said. Everything Marcus died for. Everything I've been protecting for 7 years. Financial records, communications, video evidence. Enough to destroy careers and send people to prison for life. How do we get it to the journalist? We don't. The journalist I contacted 3 days ago. Sarah Chen. Investigative reporter. He showed me a news article. Investigative journalist killed in hit and run, dated 2 days ago. They killed her, I whispered. They kill anyone who gets close. We can't hand this to one person. We have to go bigger, wider. We release it publicly. Flood every news outlet, every social media platform simultaneously. Make it too big to contain. That's insane. That's survival. If this information is only in one person's hands, they can kill them and bury it. If it's everywhere, they can't silence all of us. I agreed. The only way to protect the evidence was to make it impossible to suppress. I know people, hackers, activists, but we need to get to them, and that means leaving this cabin. We need help, real help, from someone they won't see coming. Who? Ryan hesitated. Your parents. Your father was Navy. He has contacts. People who retired but still have resources. People who owe him favors. If anyone can help us move and set up the infrastructure for a mass data release, it's someone with his connections. I felt a punch in my gut. My parents barely speak to me anymore. They shut down after Marcus died. I can't ask them to risk their lives. You're asking them to honor their son's sacrifice. Grace, your father is our best chance. I used Ryan's burner phone to call my parents from a gas station. The call was short and cryptic. Dad, it's Grace. I need to see you. Tonight. It's about Marcus. Don't tell anyone. Come to the cabin. Come alone. We'll be there in 3 hours, he said. Your mother deserves to hear it too. He hung up. I drove back. Mind racing. How do you tell your parents their son was murdered by his own command? Ryan was waiting, stronger now. When your parents get here, we're going to tell them things that will destroy them, he cautioned. Learning the system they devoted their lives to murdered their son. That's trauma. And we're going to ask them to betray the institutions they've honored. Make sure they understand what they're agreeing to before they agree. Don't manipulate them with grief. He was right. They deserved full disclosure. 3 hours later, my father's truck appeared. They had aged, hollowed out by grief. Mom, Dad, there's someone I need you to meet. I led them inside where Ryan stood. Master Chief Caldwell, Mrs. Caldwell, my name is Lieutenant Commander Ryan Thornton. I served with your son. I need to tell you what really happened the night he died. We know what happened. My father hardened. Classified operation. Hostile engagement. He died serving his country. No, sir. That's what they told you. But it's not the truth. For 2 hours, Ryan told them everything. Showed them the evidence of the arms trafficking, the ambush, and Marcus's assassination to silence him. My mother wept. My father sat stone-faced. Do you have proof? My father finally asked. Ryan held up the hard drive. Everything Marcus documented, plus 7 years of evidence I've collected. Names, dates, financial transactions. It's all here. And you're asking for our help to release it. Yes, sir. Official channels are compromised. The only way to protect this information is to release it publicly, all at once. I need help with infrastructure, secure communications, people I can trust who have operational experience. My father looked at my mother. They communicated silently. What do you need? My father asked. Contacts. People you served with who retired to civilian life. Tech specialists. People who can set up a distributed network for releasing this data. I know people, he said slowly. People who got out because they were sick of the corruption themselves. They'd jump at the chance to expose this. Can you reach them securely? I can reach them off-grid, the old-fashioned way, face-to-face. Ryan nodded. Then we have a chance. My mother finally spoke, her voice steady. If we expose these people, will it bring Marcus back? No, ma'am. But it will give meaning to his sacrifice. It will stop them from doing to other mothers' sons what they did to yours. My mother nodded. Then we do it. We finish what my son started. My father stood and extended his hand to Ryan. You have our help. Tell us what you need. Just like that, my parents were in. Over the next 48 hours, my father contacted 6 retired military personnel, honest people who had been disillusioned or pushed out of the system. James Park, a former cryptologist who now ran a cybersecurity firm, agreed to build the distribution network. Maria Cortez, a former intelligence analyst, brought media contacts. Others were a communications specialist, a logistics officer, and a legal officer. Ryan showed them the evidence. When he showed them the video Marcus recorded 3 days before the ambush, my mother had to leave the room. Marcus looked directly at the camera on the small screen. If you're watching this, it means they found out what I know and decided I was too dangerous to leave alive. To whoever finds this, finish what I started. Don't let them get away with it. Be brave enough to do what's right, even when it costs you everything. James Park spoke. I can have the distribution network ready in 12 hours. Once we trigger it, there's no stopping it. Maria Cortez confirmed she could get 3 major news organizations to publish comprehensive investigations the same day we released everything publicly, giving it credibility. Tom Bradley, the legal officer, noted we could build a parallel case documenting why we had to go public, but Ryan was blunt. We're probably going to face prosecution. Some of us might go to prison. Our careers are over. Our reputations will be destroyed. This is serious, life-altering consequences. Then we face them, my father said firmly. The alternative is letting these people continue murdering soldiers for profit. I'd rather go to prison with integrity. Everyone committed. We spent the next 12 hours preparing. James set up the tech. Maria coordinated with journalists. I helped Ryan write his statement. I was a coward, he wrote. I watched my commander and 3 teammates die in an ambush, orchestrated by our own command. But silence is complicity, and I can't be complicit anymore. At exactly 0600 hours on the 3rd day, James said, infrastructure is ready. The moment I hit enter, this evidence uploads to servers in 14 countries simultaneously. There's no taking it back. Wait, my mother said, walking to the center of the room. I believed my son died honorably. That belief was the only thing that made his death bearable. Now I know the truth. He was murdered by people he trusted. That truth is destroying me all over again, but it's also freeing me. My son died fighting against evil. He died trying to protect other soldiers. That is honorable. That is meaningful. Release it, James. All of it. Let the world see what my son saw. Let his death mean something. James nodded. Yes, ma'am. He pressed enter. Within 2 minutes, terabytes of classified evidence were being distributed around the world. The first news alert hit 23 minutes later. Military whistleblower exposes massive arms trafficking network within Defense Department. Within an hour, it was international. Congressional oversight committees announced emergency hearings. The Department of Defense called the allegations unfounded, but the evidence was public. Names started emerging. A 3-star general, 2 admirals, defense contractors. The backlash was immediate. Federal agents arrived at the cabin 36 hours after the release. We were arrested, all of us, charged with espionage, theft of classified information, conspiracy. Ryan was transferred to a military hospital under guard. I spent 3 days in a holding cell, but outside, public pressure mounted. Veteran organizations demanded hearings. Investigative journalists dug deeper. Whistleblower protection groups rallied to our defense. The general resigned. An admiral was placed under investigation. Defense contractors faced criminal charges. 6 weeks after our arrest, I was released on bail. My parents followed soon after. Ryan remained hospitalized paralyzed, facing the most serious charges. The legal battle continues. We may still go to prison. Our careers are destroyed, but the investigation is progressing. The network Marcus discovered is being systematically dismantled. Lives are being saved, because corrupted operations are being canceled. I visit Ryan in the hospital. He's recovering slowly. Do you regret it? I asked him last week. I regret waiting 7 years, he said. But releasing the evidence, exposing the truth? No, I don't regret that. Even if I spend the rest of my life in prison, at least I'll know I finally did the right thing. My brother knew that. Doing the right thing costs you everything, but it is still right. He chose integrity over survival. And now, 7 years later, his choice is finally making a difference. The men who killed him are being held accountable. The system he tried to expose is being reformed. Other soldiers will live because of what he documented and what we released. His death wasn't meaningless. His legacy rises, his truth rises, his courage rises, and that has to be enough. So now I want to know from you. If you were in my position, what would you have done? Would you have helped Ryan escape, knowing it could destroy your life? Would you have released that evidence, knowing the consequences? Or would you have walked away, let someone else take the risk? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know what you think. If this story moved you, then subscribe to this channel. Every week I share real stories like this one. Thank you for listening to my brother's story. Thank you for caring about the truth. It means more than you know.